Hello, this is Nathan Wood, pastor of North Dayton Baptist Church, and welcome to day 347 of the McShane Reading Plan. Glad to have you with us today. We are in 2 Chronicles, chapters 14 and 15, Revelation, chapter 4, Haggai, chapter 2, and Psalm 119, 121 to 144. This is probably going to be a real quick video. That's the famous words before it's 45 minutes. But seriously, I'm going to try to make it short. I think if you look at the legacy of Asa in chapters 14 and 15, we've covered him before. Wonderful, godly king. He did not take down the high places, I believe it is. He cut down the groves. But the high places were not taken away out of Israel. Nevertheless, the heart of Asa was perfect in all his days. It's characteristic of any era. We don't want to take down the high places. We don't want to purge evil from our hearts. Well, that's a hard thing because, in days gone by, we in the West, not just America, are of enlightened behavior. We examine, we study, we respect, we appreciate. So, for instance, when Europeans like Britain were in the Middle East, yeah, they took stuff and take it to a museum, and then they took stuff over, but they preserved things. Okay? They preserved things. When zealous Islamists like ISIS come through someplace like Nineveh, which is a literal place, it's not just a fictitious city, they destroy it. They destroy all artifacts. And what are these artifacts? It might be a relief carved into a wall that's thousands of years old, but it depicts human-animal hybrids and pagan rituals and deities and unseemly things that are of a very satanic nature. So, what do we talk about? Asa not destroying the high places. Well, maybe he did find aesthetic value in some of this stuff. He cut down the groves, so apparently he stopped short. So it's very difficult for us to navigate this because we're to take the scriptures seriously. Very seriously, and not beat around the bush. But what's the high places and idols of our era? I don't find many people bowing down to idols in museums. We write movies about that, like The Mummy, where artifacts come to life and usher in a possible apocalypse, etc., at the hands of great evil powers and wicked sorcery. But ladies and gentlemen, the high places of our heart, while demonic realms are real, the high places of our heart, of our existence, are our own personal desires that get in the way of God, that contradict the Word of God, that we try to explain away with the Word of God, even though the Word of God clearly says otherwise. Calling love hate and hate love, calling sin righteous and righteousness sin, calling evil good and good evil, calling Satan the devil and the devil, or calling God the devil and the devil God. So, where do we find ourselves? Where do we find ourselves? Does it mean that Asa did a bad job? No. Asa did a very good job. And God rewarded him for it. Gave him rest from his enemies. Even, and Asa, and this is in ancient Israel with a covenant call. This is one of the reasons why there's a difference between Israel and the church, okay? It's because in the time of Israel, theocratic Israel, it was perfectly within the purview of the sovereign of Israel to forcefully impose godliness under pain and penalty of death even. That was in the law of Moses. It's not it's not within our realm of possibility in the church. Okay? Now, is there capital punishment available? Yes, it's in the hands of the state. And if you want the state to act righteously, well, Christian, you better stop thinking about your own selfishness and start thinking about electing godly individuals. Okay? Freedom thrives under godliness. This whole handmaiden's tale thing is a load of garbage. Okay? The Salem witch trials happened not in a time of godliness, but in a time of wicked self-righteousness. There is a difference. There is a difference. The Puritan leaders of Salem in Massachusetts in those days were superstitious because they didn't have assurance of their salvation, because they were scared of God, not fearing the Lord, but they were scared of God. There's a difference. Asa wasn't scared of God. He feared the Lord. Okay? There's a holy terror and there's an evil terror. God has a holy terror. And if we're just so dead inside that we don't respond with awe and reverence, we're out of it. But here's the thing. But that's not the whole story. It's not the plan of salvation. Is not cleanse evil from your land, cleanse evil from your household, and thou shalt be saved. No, there's blessing there. There's blessing especially on the national and institutional level. I think so many of our problems on a governmental level, in many instances, on many governmental levels, institutional levels, is because we haven't submitted to the statutes of God. Do you want to know why there's injustice and oppression? It's because godlessness is predominant. If we want restoration, we need revival. I'm firmly of the belief that revival can happen. It certainly can happen if you want it. If you want it. The Lord is waiting. But guess what? Like I was saying, I got off on a rabbit trail. The plan of salvation is not do this, purge this, and thou shalt be saved. The plan of salvation is in Jesus Christ alone. Let's look at verse 124 of Psalm 119. Deal with thy servant according unto thy mercy, and teach me thy statutes. That doesn't sound like do right and I'll save you. Well, that's because it doesn't say that. Yes, there's blessing with doing right, but the higher plane is deal with thy servant according unto thy mystery. The better truth, the higher truth, is that we are to ask and appeal to God's mercy, just like David did. David sinned and he appealed to God's mercy, not trying to make a deal with God, because inevitably we're going to mess up. No matter how good we think we can be, we're going to mess up. Even if you don't realize it, you're going to mess up. And the world, humans, they're going to throw the book at you. They're going to be tired. They're going to be fed up. They're going to yell and scream at you. They're going to get mean. Other religions are the same way. Or they can go the other way and be apathetic and excuse wrongdoing and go into anarchy, permissiveness, relative morality. Jesus is neither of these. He's merciful, not giving what's deserved, but he's gracious, giving better than what we deserve. Then, teach me thy statutes. That's what the cross purchased. The cross purchased God's goodness so that we can trust in his goodness and his salvation before we ever go down the path of sanctification. Because it's not that sanctification that saves us. It's not good deeds that save us. It's his statutes that show our love when we perform them. It's His mercy that saves us. It's His grace that saves us. I'm very sorry. I'm having a hard time here. My plans. Okay, there we go. Read this verse with me. Haggai chapter 2, verse 6. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, yet once it is a little while, and I will shake the heavens and earth, and the sea and the dry land, and I will shake all nations, and the desire of all nations shall come, and I will fill this house with glory, saith the Lord of hosts. And the dominion of the Lord has yet to be fulfilled in its entirety. He's going to come back. But ladies and gentlemen, whose the desire of all nations shall come? When the nations are shaken? Why do you think the earth quaked at the crucifixion? It's a sign to that's a reference fulfillment to the final shaking that will happen. But Christ conquered the earth from the cross, and He is the desire of nations, whether they realize Him or not. Every yearning in the human soul is answered by Jesus Christ in this life or the next. Maybe that's a good quote. Maybe somebody said it before me. But seriously, everything is answered by Christ. Because He is the way. How do I get there? He is the truth. What do I need to know? What don't I know? What must I know? What is? What is actual? What is valid? What is truthful? What is truth? Is who is truth? And the life. What sustains me? How am I and why am I here? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a big deal. He's the desire of all nations. Yet nobody wants Him. Do you? We celebrated Christmas a little rejected baby born in a manger. Mary and Joseph couldn't even find room in the inn, so he had to be born in a stable. Now, more than likely it was in September, not December. But it can get cold at night out in a stable. I don't know how many of you have ever slept in a barn before or tried to sleep with a baby in a barn before. But, yeah, we tend to turn our noses up at people like that sometimes. And undoubtedly that's the attitude of those that were expecting a much more pompous Messiah. The desire of nations came meek and lowly because He's for everyone. Trust in Him today. We love you. He loves you. Have a good day.